First Person is produced in cooperation with the Far East Broadcasting Company, who rejoice in the stories of changed lives through the power of Jesus Christ. Learn more at febc.org.
Sometimes a horse chooses a child, which is really special. They will come right up, put their nose on them and say, hey, choose me, choose me, choose me. Because these kids, they've been, abandoned and, all sorts of things. And so it's a really powerful connection.
Her name is Kim Tschirret, and she's the founder of Hope Reins, a North Carolina program helping children overcome abuse and trauma. And yes, horses play a huge part. We'll learn all about it next here on First Person. Welcome, I'm Wayne Shepherd. Our weekly interviews are for the purpose of encouraging all of us in our faith by hearing the testimonies of people who have placed their faith in Jesus Christ. If you'd like to hear more of these stories, please visit us at firstpersoninterview.com or subscribe to our podcast using your favorite podcast app. Just search for First Person with Wayne Shepherd. By subscribing, you can go back and listen to past programs and receive notification of new ones. You'll also find us at facebook.com/firstpersoninterview. Hope Reins, spelled R-E-I-N-S, founded in 2010, was born out of Kim's love for kids and horses, as well as her firsthand knowledge of living as a child of abuse and trauma herself. Kim will tell us the whole story in her own words.
Hope Reins, we're a nonprofit ministry based in Raleigh, North Carolina, and we work with kids that are experiencing trauma, and we pair them with horses that have been rescued from similar circumstances, and we help them find the hope and healing of Jesus through this beautiful relationship that they build with our rescued horses.
That is amazing. I'm going to drill down on that in a few minutes here because it's such a unique ministry. But let's talk about you. You have been a successful business person. We were just talking off air about your time in Chicago as a business person with Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yeah, very fun.
Yeah. What else have you done business-wise?
Yeah, really all of my career has been more for small businesses, startups. Once I left Chicago, that was during the dot-com boom, and we moved to Raleigh, which is a very high-tech area. Mm-hmm. So I started to work for companies doing marketing that were being sold or going IPO, and it was just a really crazy time, but a great way to get really hands-on and learn good entrepreneurship and how to launch a business, which helped in starting Hope Reins.
All right. Now, let me take you back in your early life because I know there was some trauma there. And pick up the story if you would, because it's important to understand this, to understand why you do what you do today, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really full circle for me. Yeah, I grew up in an upper middle class home in Ohio that looked really great from the outside. My dad was a very successful businessman, and we didn't want for anything financially, but he was an alcoholic and very emotionally and verbally abusive. And our home was just chaos. And I never knew safety as a little girl. And nobody knew, Wayne. I think a lot of people who have addiction in their life and in their family understand that it's a secret, and we were never allowed to share it outside, but we also weren't allowed to talk about it inside, which made me feel crazy. My sister and I talk about this all the time. It's like, as a child, something's not right. But what ends up happening is you internalize that it's me. There's something wrong with me, right? And so that was really my core message, was that there is something wrong with me.
Yeah. So that led to issues in your life in adulthood or not?
Oh, goodness, yeah. I spent my whole life trying to make my dad happy, to make him see me, to make him love me. And, just bad relationships, I had no value as a person, and I didn't know Jesus at the time. But when I was about 10 or 11 years old, my dad bought me a horse because it looked good. Right. It wasn't necessarily for anything other than that.
Kind of a status thing, maybe?
Yeah, a status thing. And this was back when we were Ohio and Oklahoma. My horse was the only thing I ever whispered my secrets to, right? There was this bond and connection with him. And I just remember sitting in his stall and just pouring my heart out, right? Because nobody else would listen. but him. But I had this beautiful connection. God created horses, wired them to be really great therapy because they are so sensitive to human moods and emotions, and they're really great connection partners.
Yeah,
So
I'd like to learn more about that in a few minutes. But when did Jesus become part of your life then?
Oh, wow. Well, I went on a trajectory. In my family, there were people who kind of went down the route of drugs and alcohol, and I could kind of see that wasn't the right path. So I went down a performance route, right? I just performed my whole life. So I had again, worked in marketing and business, trying to be really successful. And when I had my son in 2001, even before that, I'd started going to church. God was really pursuing my heart. But after I had my son, I was working in marketing for a local company, and I just realized how empty it was. It just wasn't satisfying me. And so I always said, Wayne, I will never be a stay-at-home mom, and I will never drive a minivan. And guess what happened? I just decided when I looked at that little boy, I was like, there's no purpose in this work that I'm doing. So I started to stay home, and we started to pursue going to church. And it was in Bible study that our pastor's wife led me to Christ.
Wonderful.
And it was really everything that I had been looking for.
Wonderful. So when did this idea of reconnecting through horses with therapy for children, when did this come about?
Yeah, well, it was a journey. I had my son in 2001 and then my daughter. And probably about 2006, I started to really feel like God had something for me. And I went to a women's conference where the woman that was speaking asked the question, what is something that you used to love to do that you never do anymore? And horses popped into my head for the first time in over 20 years. And so I started to kind of pursue, should I start riding again? What should I do? And really over the span of a couple of years, I did some investigating, but I found a book about an organization in Oregon that was doing something similar. And I knew that was it. Just right away, I knew that was it. And that was in 2009 in the middle of the recession.
Okay. It's a great time to start a ministry.
Yeah. And everybody said, you are crazy. Businesses are going under. You can't do this. You'll never find land was the number one thing everybody kept saying. And that was the first thing God did, was give us 20 acres for $1 a month. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So you have that property today?
No, that was our first property where we got started for the first 5 years. And then God brought us this beautiful property that we're at now. It's a 38 acres, rolling hills, a big, huge log cabin that was this man's retirement, and all this pasture, beautiful place that we currently have our ranch at.
Okay. So describe physically what you have there at the ranch. I mean, how many horses and how many kids are you able to reach? And let's talk about all those details.
Yeah. So we have 17 rescued horses. And like I said, 38 acres. And Wayne, when you walk on our property, and it's believers and non-believers say the same thing, you are flooded with peace the moment that you drive on our property. The Holy Spirit is there. There's just a calm and a peace that really arrests people when they walk on our property. And our beautiful horses, they're so happy. They love their life. And so many of them have been starved and abused and had so many terrible things happen to them. But they're a picture of hope for our kids, right? Because our kids come for the very first time through our gates, and they get introduced to all the horses, right? And they get to hear their stories and see, oh, wow, this horse, he was starved like me, or he was abused like me. And look, he looks really good right now. So maybe there's hope for me, right? It's just a real picture of hope. And we have a beautiful 4,000 square foot log cabin from British Columbia that this man who passed away had built. So it's just a real special place. 36 staff, 200 volunteers. Wow. But the most important thing is we served this last year 320 children, so ages 5 to 18.
And who are these children?
Yeah, great question. They really come from everywhere. The one thing about trauma is it is the great unifier, right? It's we all experience it. It doesn't matter, if you have lots or if you don't. But more than half the kids that we serve, Wayne, live at or below the poverty line. I'm sure the mental health crisis has never been worse, and there are no resources. The state of North Carolina that I love, we rank in almost last place for providing mental mental health services, so there isn't access for kids. Our program is completely free of charge because we don't want there to be any barrier for kids, and we prioritize those, that need the additional support. And we do that. They find us through primarily word of mouth, but also through some strategic partnerships that we've created with organizations locally.
So is this like a day camp kind of thing for kids? Do they tell me about that?
Yeah, so it's really more, we call them sessions, even though we're not therapists, we're lay people, but what we're offering is therapeutic in nature, and it's really about mentorship. But what we offer is a free 90-minute session once a week. So a child comes same day, 4:00 on Thursday every week. They're paired with the same horse and the same mentor. And we have a 3 or 5-step pathway that we walk them through that really helps them heal. First of all, most important thing. And Jesus heals is our number one core value, Wayne, because we don't heal people and horses don't heal people. Horses are a bridge and a connection that Jesus uses for these kids, but he is the healer. And then we have 4 skills that are the 4 things horses naturally teach humans: trust, communication, boundaries, and leadership. And our whole program is geared around helping kids learn and become confident in these skills so that they'll be healthy, productive adults. And we have all sorts of research that undergirds all of that.
We'll continue talking with Kim and learning about horses and the part they play in therapy coming up on First Person.
I'm Ed Cannon of the Far East Broadcasting Company. Did you know that there are billions of people who still haven't heard the gospel? We're doing everything we can to change that by using radio and digital media to give the hope of Jesus to people in hard-to-reach places. In over 50 countries and with 152 languages, FEBC listeners can hear about a loving God, and millions respond. To learn more about FEBC and all that's being done, please visit febc.org. That's febc.org.
My guest is Tim Tschirret, who is founder and CEO of Hope Reins, Reins. Little play on words there for this ministry that utilizes horses and therapy with children. And Hope, I'm so glad to hear this story. This is all new to me. It really is. A mutual friend connected us, and I'm very glad to hear about the story. Run through that list of 4 things that horses can teach children again.
They naturally teach humans trust, communication, boundaries, and leadership.
Okay.
And those are really, Wayne, in the order really that kids need to learn the skills, because if they can't trust, they're not going to heal, right? They can't move to the next steps. But the first thing they have to do is feel safe, which we talked about earlier, that our ranch is really the safe refuge for our kids. And that's really the first thing that we want them to experience, is a feeling of safety.
Yeah. So how do you go about it? You said 90-minute sessions, and you helped, what you said, over 300 children last year?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
2,100 in our history, over 30,000 free of charge sessions.
So what do you do with the kids? How do they connect with the horses?
Yeah. So really, the very first thing, there's only 2 requirements for kids to be in our program. Number one, the parent or the caregiver has to be present, right? Because they're part of the healing process. And number 2, they have to say yes, the child, whether they're 5 years old or whether they're 18. Because if they're not ready to heal, then it's not going to work. So what it really looks like, their orientation, they come, they take a tour, they get introduced to all the horses and their stories, and they learn about our program. And then their first session, they come and they get paired with their mentor. So they get to meet the mentor that they're going to build relationship with. And sometimes these are people on our staff, and sometimes these are volunteers, but they've been fully trained by us. And really, in the beginning, it's really just trying to get to know. But a lot of our kids, Wayne, really the majority, they're so shut down emotionally and socially, if you can imagine, from their trauma. And the last thing they really feel comfortable with is trusting this person that they don't know, because a person has hurt them. So really what the mentor does is focuses on the horse, right? And really taking them around and introducing them. And sometimes a child will bond and connect with a certain story of a horse. And then sometimes a horse chooses a child, which is really special.
Really?
Really, really special. They will come right up, put their nose on them and say, "Hey, I'm your person. Choose me, choose me, choose me." And that makes, because these kids, they've been, abandoned and, all sorts of things. And so it's a really powerful connection.
Well, I have to think it's their first experience with a horse too, isn't it?
So many. Yeah. So many. It's their very first experience. And then we have about 120 tools that we call that are geared around trust, communication, boundaries, and leadership. So there are these kind of facilitated experiences that we do with the horse and child that really help them bond and connect and really start feeling safe and trusting and getting to know their mentor. And so it just, sometimes it's taking care of our horse and grooming. Sometimes it's riding. Sometimes it's just doing an obstacle course. Like we do all these crazy, because we want our horses to have fun too, right? They love their job. Yeah.
This has to be very emotional for all concerned. I mean, not only the children, but those of you who are leading the effort as well. You have to see these connections made and just marvel at them.
Oh, absolutely. And, we always talk to our staff because the stories that come up our driveway, Wayne, are the worst that you have heard, and we just say, Lord, I don't know what you're going to do. I don't know how in the world you're going to overcome this. Right. But he always does. And we get to see the joy on the other side. Right. We get to hear the parents say, oh my gosh, my child engaged with me today, or they played a game, or they wanted to have a friend over. I mean, these things as normal parents, we take for granted that are really big milestones for these kids. But it's incredible, the stories. Yeah.
All right. Well, you got to tell me a couple of them here. I'm not going to let you off without
will.
telling some. So I noticed in doing research for this that even at least one of your board members is a former recipient of this help, right?
There's actually 4 of our board members right now. Yeah, we've had a lot of board members that are former recipients.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell
me, they've received so much healing. Well, one of the exciting things, Wayne, this is our 15-year anniversary this year, and so I want to tell you a story of one of our 15-year kids, because again, this Harvard study that they did that talks about when kids don't heal from their trauma, they become the homeless and the incarcerated and the mentally ill and the drug addicted. Like there's all these adult issues that are all tied back to childhood trauma. And so Elena is a young lady who started with us probably 10 years ago when she was in her early teens, and she was being sexually abused by her stepfather. And was brave enough to tell her mom and get help. He's in prison from that. And they tried traditional therapy, which was just not, traditional therapy is great. I never knock it. It's a lot of times our kids are doing both, right? And it's very needed. But she was just really having a hard time connecting and opening up and talking, and came out and really bonded with one of our geldings, Cody. And Cody really became her safe place and her safe person. And one of the big things that she talks about, all of our kids talk about, is there's no pressure out at the ranch because you aren't sitting in an office with somebody looking at you, waiting, for you to talk. Everything we do is very side by side, and we're doing activities. And so this natural conversation just comes up, or the horse does something and, something gets brought up. But Elena today is 25 years old. She's working in a lab. She is thriving as an adult. She just actually came out and spoke to our board at one of our retreats to kind of share her testimony. And she still has this beautiful picture of she and Cody on her wall in her room. And that's what she looks to remember what, how far God has brought her and what he's taught her and the healing that she's experienced.
Yeah, so I'm just imagining the connection between these children and the horse that they're working with, and it's got to be a long connection, right?
It is.
A deep connection.
It really is. Yeah. Very deep. Very deep.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, you started this from scratch.
Yeah.
I mean, you have no experience in this sort of thing. You just loved horses, and God just revealed to you how it might be helpful. And what was the actual start? You had to start with a horse, right? Where did that come from, and how did that begin?
Yeah. Well, we actually modeled ourselves off this group in Oregon that was doing something similar, and then we've kind of, really taken it and made it our own. But I honestly, Wayne, I never worked in ministry, but my working in business and entrepreneurship is really what helped set us up for success. And we really run Hope Reins more like a business than a ministry. To this day, we have a great business operating system. We're very focused on our goals and really achieving the things that the Lord has set before us. And most importantly, really using our donor money in the best way that, honors them. But really, we started with Gabe, who was a party pony. He was the first horse that we picked up. We still have Gabe today. He's a little Shetland pony, and he's always on the naughty list. It's like little horses are kind of like little dogs. You know what I mean? They have a lot of personality. But yeah, we started with Gabe and just have built some relationships with some local rescues and people who have rescued horses. But it takes a very special horse to do what we do. And so, yeah.
And several times you've referred to them as rescued horses. That may be a new concept to folks, but this is quite a thing where it's needed, isn't it? Otherwise, I would imagine the horse is destroyed, huh?
They are. In fact, 3 of our newest horses were all rescued from a slaughter auction. So they get sold. They end up in auction, and then they get bid on, and they head down to Mexico in these horrible containers. And it's just horrific what happens. And equally horrific what has happened to the kids that we serve.
Yeah. So there's a double-edged sword thing going on here. You're helping the horses, and of course, most importantly, you're helping the children.
Absolutely.
By connecting them in therapy with these horses. You use the word donors. You are a nonprofit ministry.
Yes.
So you exist on the donations of people who share the vision.
100%. We've never taken government funding because we're faith-based. Although God's sense of humor, he brought the United States Department of Agriculture to give us a loan to buy our current property.
Oh, okay.
So that was his sense of humor. But we are really, it's 100% just people who have not just about the horses, they're about the kids, right? They have a passion for making sure our kids experience healing. And most of them, Wayne, have experienced their own trauma, right? Or someone they love, has experienced something and they really want to pay it forward.
Yeah. So you have volunteers and staff?
We do. We have 36 staff and 200 volunteers, the most passionate volunteers that you have ever met in your life. They just love what we do.
Yeah. Well, it's an incredible story, and I'm so glad to hear it. And I know we've only scratched the surface of what's available here to be told, but we'll put your website in our program notes at firstpersoninterview.com so folks can follow up. They may want to contact you. Maybe there's someone out there who wants to do what you're doing in another part of the country.
And Wayne, that's something we didn't even touch on, but we have an academy where we teach and train other people in 5 countries right now and 31 states across the U.S. to do what we do. So please reach out because that's one of our areas of specialty is we want more kids to have access to hope and healing in their communities.
Yeah. In the end, this is not about the horses, it's about the children, right?
It is. It's about the children, and we want them to have a saving faith in Jesus, and we want them to heal from their trauma, and we want them to onboard these great skills so that they can be healthy, productive adults.
Yeah.
Yep.
Could you have imagined years ago that you would be doing what you're doing, Kim?
No, I would have run for the hills, Wayne. That's God's kindness, right? That he doesn't show us the whole story. We just have to take the next step, even though they're usually very scary. But yeah. Yep.
I love asking people that final question because it always brings out the sense of calling and adventure God prepares for our lives, even before we know what's happening. You've been listening to Kim Tschirret, the founder of Hope Reins, located in Raleigh, North Carolina. There's more information about this ministry when you follow the link provided at firstpersoninterview.com. Thanks for listening to this edition of First Person. If you joined us late or want to share what you've heard with others, please use the website firstpersoninterview.com. You also have the option to subscribe to our podcast. And a word of thanks to the Far East Broadcasting Company for support making First Person possible. Learn more about FEBC and its mission of taking Christ to the world through radio and new forms of media at febc.org. Now, with thanks to my friend and producer Joe Carlson, I'm Wayne Shepherd. Join us next time for First Person.